Well, it is now 1 o'clock Eastern Time, so hello and welcome to the Alpha Anywhere Demo and Q&A webcast. I'm Dave McCormick, VP of Product Management at Alpha Software, and I'm pleased to present Dion McCormick, no relation, who is our Lead Solutions Engineer here at Alpha. Today, Dion is going to lead us off with a presentation, and then it's on to take a few more questions. There'll also be a quick presentation by Sarah Mitchell, who is from our documentation department. So let's begin. Dion, can you hear me? And are you there?
Yes, coming through loud and clear.
Excellent. I think I've gone ahead and made you the presenter, so I think you just need to share your screen.
There we go. I had the power and didn't even know it.
You had the power, and now I see your screen.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for taking your valuable time and joining us this week. We have a real fun set of sort of demos/updates for you, and then beyond that, we are here for your questions. So if you haven't already done, please take the time to go into the chat window and put your questions into that chat window, and Dave will be monitoring that, and we'll try to get through all of them. And as always, you can send to guides@alphasoftware.com. That's GUIDES at alphasoftware.com. That email address. And in fact, we have a great question that came in. We're going to do a little presentation on that today. So feel free to send it to us during the week so we're prepared and we can really do the best job possible to answer these kind of questions. So with that, I have a couple quick updates, announcements. First, we are calling out for mentors. We want you specifically to help us with our mentoring program. And that's where we are looking for experienced Alpha developers who have done work with Alpha. We need a wide range of experiences, both web, mobile, XBasic, desktop. I mean, you name it. We need all those kind of skill sets in there. But please let us know. You can always contact us at guides@alphasoftware.com. And the idea behind a mentor is that we help the newer developers kind of work and adopt the technology, but more importantly, to answer specific questions or help them architect specific solutions. And it's really fulfilling work. We really have a large demand for it because of the adoption of Alpha continues to increase. So we need a lot of people to help us, all these new people coming on board, and we're looking for it. So let us know. Now, I did want to put up what I consider the ideal mentor is, not necessarily by looks, but in terms of personality. But you don't have to be, 1,000 years old or so to be a mentor in our program. We'll accept it if you've, a little younger types there. But the idea is someone who can help take a newer person and share their wisdom, share their knowledge, share their capabilities, and guide them to success using the Alpha project or the Alpha product. And it's very fulfilling. And, one of the challenges we have is that Alpha continues to expand in capabilities with all the new web APIs and integrations and now Transform. We just have an incredible breadth of capabilities, including original desktop capabilities. So we're looking for a wide range of skill sets that are available, and we can match those things up. So if you have, go to guides@Alpha Software, let us know. Now, what I'd like to do first today is to do a quick Transform update and show you one of the cooler features that have just been released in the pre-release, and again, pre-release, to let you know. So first, we have some new website content. If you go to alphasoftware.com, Alpha Anywhere Transform, and I'm going to pop over and go ahead and show that real quick. So let me open up my browser. And this will take a moment there. And /alpha. If I could type today, excuse me, bear. Okay. And you'll see we have a lot of really great content on here. Background about Transform, updated information on them, ability to try Transform, also some cool little, videos and other things that are on there, including background information. You can see we have these new demos. And we're creating a lot of content. A lot of new content is coming online as we speak. So this will be constantly updated there. So if you want to learn more about Transform, this is a great starting point. And again, it's Alpha Software, alpha-anywhere-transform. And the team's really, the development team already had a great amount of stuff in place, but beyond that, the marketing and sales team has really been working to kind of bring all of that into a more digestible format for people to start learning more about Transform. So that's online. Our dedicated application for Transform currently use the Alpha Launch project. There's actually in Alpha Launch is Transform as a sub application, but our full-blown Transform application is being submitted to the app stores, both iOS and Android, and we should hopefully be seeing those very soon. We're always at the mercy of those app stores, and that will be very exciting and also a big step forward from that standpoint there. And also we have a lot of sample forms in development. We're creating a lot of base content so people can learn techniques, use them as starting points and other pieces. So we're doing a lot of work of kind of fleshing out all of those extra things that you would really want in a product beyond the product itself to help you get up to speed and be able to move very, very quickly with Transform. And the nice thing is you can move very quickly with Transform. As you've seen in our demos, and we'll be doing more, Transform is incredibly powerful but incredibly easy to put together your forms. Very, very exciting. And last but not least is in the pre-release has been submitted the Transform API Explorer. And I've mentioned that before, but I want to spend a little time talking about that a little bit more. Dun, dun, dun. So the important thing to realize is that Alpha Transform has a very rich API, and that API allows you to interface to Transform from both Alpha Anywhere or other technologies. And that's really a key capability. It's not only the incredible, powerful, easy to use development environment, design environment to create forms and be able to submit them, gather rich data, very complex data, and bring it back. But now we have this ability to quickly take that information, those forms and the data that's generated by them, and leverage them in your existing solutions or new solutions. And so really the heart of that is the web APIs that's done there. And that's something that the developers will have available, and it's available now. It allows you to use Alpha Anywhere. You can actually literally write against the web APIs. You don't need Alpha Anywhere, but you can create your own apps. You can connect using the web APIs to back-end systems to grab that data. But that web API is the heart of this system because it allows you in a secure and safe way to interface with Transform. And that's not only grabbing data from Transform, but putting data into Transform. So let's say you want to have a system like a back-end system auto-generate forms. You can do that. If you want a system to take data, modify it, and put it back in, you can do that. And that's all through the web APIs. And they're very flexible, very rich, and will be maturing over time. Now, what the team did is to help accelerate people with Alpha Anywhere, their ability to use these web APIs, is the new API Explorer, which is very, very cool. And I'm going to demonstrate it now. Basically, this is a new feature in the pre-release that allows you to kind of get up to speed on Transform and connecting into Transform. Now, you'll need a Transform account to be able to play with this and be able to use it. But again, the accounts are free to, in a test environment for you to test it out and get to know what Transform. So let me go ahead and jump into the Alpha development environment. Dun, 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 dun. Great. And I'm going to go to the Web Projects Control Panel. And you can see there's just my standard control panel with all my different types of components here. But I'm going to go up here to Tools, and then about 3/4 of the way down, there's a new link if you've installed the latest pre-release. It's called Open Transform API Explorer. So I click that. And this opens up a new dialog box called the API Explorer. Now, very important is you'll get an API key, and I can actually show you how to get that within Transform. Actually, let me go ahead and, while I'm doing that, let me go ahead and go into Transform Central. I think actually, hold on here.
You can also go to transform.alphasoftware.com, which will take you directly in.
Yep, there you go. Cool. Oops, I'm on the wrong one here. Let's see. There we are. Sorry. Jumping around. Too many things here. Okay. So I'm in Transform. May make me log in. Yeah, I'm going to have to log in. Okay. Cool. So in Transform, as we talked about, there's the designer that shows you where you can design your forms, and it's downloading the latest form definitions. You have the management console where you manage the instances of forms that have been filled out. The definitions are sort of your template, and the other pieces here. But if you're on the home page, you'll see there's a link called Developer Options. You can click on there and you can get Transform API key or revoke it. You click on here, and then what that allows you to do is it will generate a unique key that you'll copy and paste and save that allows you to interface with Transform securely through the API layer. So what happens is when you make an API call into Transform, you need to pass it this special key, otherwise Transform says, sorry, no go. Now, the API key allows you to create different API keys that have different powers. So there's like the all-important one, which is kind of like you can do everything in Transform, but you can actually create API keys, and we're going to go into this more detail on a future webinar, where you only allow certain things that can be done by that Transform API key. Maybe you want to only allow them for people to grab data out of Transform versus being able to create forms or do other things along those lines. But once you have your Transform API key, you enter your key here. Once you have your key here, then in the Transform API Explorer, it remembers that and handles it for you. So you'll see here on the left are all the different API calls that can be used. On the right is an area here, both an Explore area and a Help area. So let's find a good one here. Let's say get, get form dash for form ID. I'm trying to find a good one that can show you something like that. Let's go here. Okay, that's form data, fields in a form. Okay, here's a great one. It's called Get List of Form Definitions. So when I was in here, you'll see that these are called form definitions. So when I click on one, this is essentially the definition, sort of the template for that form. And then when you actually create a version of it, those are called instances, and you manage them here. So you can see I have a whole bunch of different definitions. Each of these definitions can have a different function that's available to it. So what I want to be able to do is get a list of form definitions. So here is the API call that would work with Transform that would call the account and then return to you a list of all these. And so let me go ahead and say test. And in a moment, you'll see that I just clicked on there. It used my API key, and check this out. So here is what came back from the system. You'll see that first it's saying, hey, you know, there's no errors. Then you're going to see here's the results, and it's a list of form definitions. G-sample 41, this. So each one of these is equivalent to each one of these, and you'll notice that they're in those pieces here. So now that data is available in a JSON format, so I can do anything I want with it. I can attach it to a list control. I could extract the data, insert it into a database. I could do anything I want to do with that. So the idea is that all of these different forms do stuff. So let's take an example here. Let's go in here. Let's go to the management console, and let's see if I have any forms in here. Let's see if this comes. Okay, so you'll notice that on here, this is a specific, actually, let me do something. Let's go dental form. Let's go here, and I'll choose the type dental form. See if I have a couple of samples. Okay, so you'll notice here that for my form definition dental form, I have a series of different form instances that I've filled out with. This has some data, this doesn't have some data. So let's say I wanted to call the API to get a list of these. So in here, first I'm going to grab that form definition because I need the name of it. So I want to get my dental form, so the form ID is called dental form, so I'm going to copy that. Oops. Actually, I'll just go in here and copy it here. Dental form, that's the form ID. Going a little too fast. Copy that. Okay. Now I'm going to find one. I'm going to say, oh, get form instances array for form ID. So what I want to do is I want to get a list of those instances for a specific form ID. So it says, oh, okay, if you need to do that, first I need the form ID. So I'm going to put in dental form. And then I can put in a list of fields that I want. So if I didn't want all the fields from these forms, from the instances, I could. But in this case, I want all of them. So I'm going to leave that blank. I can either get detailed or summary, etc. I could get a record count and a timestamp. But I'm going to go ahead and say, like, for instance, I only want forms after a certain date, and I click test. So you'll notice what I did is I put in the form ID, and you'll notice now it shows me, oh, okay, it returned false for any errors. Here's my first form ID called 603, and here's the data in that form. And this includes data that's down at a lower level if you have multi there. Here's my second instance of that form, and here is all the data in there. You notice it's a little less data on there. So I could get a list of forms, grab a form ID, and then get a list of the actual instances for it. Now, this is where it gets really powerful and why I really enjoy using the API Explorer. You'll see that I can just kind of exercise and learn how these use, but now I want to actually put that in my code. Well, look at this. Here is the curl command you would use to do that. So if you're not using Alpha and you're using a third-party tool, often if you have a curl command, they'll take curl and actually integrate it with there. Let's say you want to use it within Node. You actually have sample code that's pre-built that does that. Or, my favorite, XBasic. So it's actually giving me the XBasic. So in fact, let me go ahead and copy this. So this is how I do that. So now, instead of me figuring out how to write code, I can just go in here, and I can paste this, and I can run it. And in a moment, oh, it ran. That's great. Let me go ahead and let me go right here and go show var result. So what? Let me go ahead and do this, and you'll see. Oh, hey, check that out. That's the same JSON data we had before that came through here. So the cool thing about this is that now, oh, geez, okay. If I want to go in and get a list of it, I give it the API key, I give a URL and do this. It's done for me. I don't have to go research it. I don't have to look up documentation, although our documentation is fabulous. You can do that. Now you can then take this back data, this JSON data, and then extract the data using other Alpha standard techniques from there. So that's the power, is that when you start using Alpha Transform, you're going to be able to build stuff extremely quickly because, A, you can learn about it here. Notice if I click Help, it actually has the help built into it right here. It says, what are the inputs to this call? And what does it return? And the result and the information. If I go for many of these, like create new form instance, this tells me, oh, you got to put in this information in there. And again, when I'm ready, I just click XBasic, and it has the XBasic that's ready to go for me. So this API Explorer is your best friend. When you start doing integrations with Transform, we anticipate Transform is going to have a lot of integrations because people are going to realize that they can build forms very quickly and put them out, but they're going to want to take that data back out and do something with it. You'll be able to do it within this technology from there. And again, I want to be very clear. Transform is a separate standalone product. It can be licensed separately. It doesn't require Alpha Anywhere. Alpha Anywhere is actually going to be the most powerful way to integrate and add value to Transform, but you can use it with other third-party tools. So, for instance, curl commands that you can use with any kind of tool that uses that, Node if you want to use a Node, or XBasic. So we anticipate people will not only use Transform by itself, but also connect it to other type of systems. PHP, .NET, you name it, we'll be able to do it from there. But again, I love the Transform API Explorer because, A, it's instant gratification. I can go in and start exploring. I don't even have to write any code. I can just say, hey, test this out. I'll go dental form. And this would create a new form instance and then assign it to a person with some JSON, etc., or one of these others. And I can hit here and test and see the results of it right away. Or after I've done that, I can grab the XBasic and be able to run the XBasic, copy it, and then put it into one of my script and be able to do it there. So the Transform API Explorer is available now in the pre-release. Feel free to play with it. Feel free to go get a free account for Transform. Start educating yourself from that standpoint there. And really, really a lot of fun. You're gonna be able to do some amazing things very, very quickly with Transform. It's really exciting from that standpoint. And as you can see, we again have our new website. Check that out. We'll let you know as soon as that dedicated application is available that we're very excited about that. And Chris, our partner in crime, has been working very hard to help make that happen. And we'll see more sample forms coming down from development. And we'll be coming back in a few weeks to come back and show you some examples of how we've integrated with Transform to do things within Transform within Alpha to show you the incredible power that the combination of Transform and the combination of Alpha Anywhere together is going to be amazing because it's going to allow you to do just crazy things. And what's great about it, too, is it's going to give you a new set of tools so you can say, hey, I've got this specific situation. I could either create a dedicated app or I could go get Transform and connect it into my existing Alpha Anywhere app or whatever and be able to do it much quicker, easier, add more value than you could by doing it for yourself. So you're going to have options, both options for yourself and options for your clients to be able to do things differently and achieve the different results that are needed. So that is the Alpha Transform update. Very exciting stuff going on there. So with that, I'm going to transfer it back to Dave. Dave, we can either take questions on Transform now or go ahead and do the next segment and then do all the questions at that time. Whatever you see fit.
Yeah, you know what? Let's, because this question was asked first, I think maybe we'll jump into the next demo.
I agree.
So we got a great question today, and it had to do with SVG icons, which, you know, we love using here. Just a real improvement over GIFs, pings, and even CSS. But one thing that you may not know, and I was not aware either, I'll admit my ignorance here, is that an SVG file can in fact hold multiple icons all in one file. And one of the advantages to that, of course, is that it's only one file for your app to load, it's only one file for your app to cache. So our question today was, hey, listen, I've got a SVG file and it's got a bunch of icons in it, but I'd like to add a few more. How do I go about doing that? So Sarah went ahead, took a look and researched, and she has a cool little presentation, which I saw earlier, to show you. So let me go ahead and make Sarah the presenter. Hold on a second. First, let's take you off mute. Hello, Sarah, are you there?
I am here.
All right, and you are now the presenter. I think you just have to share your screen. Oh, you're not. You are now the presenter. I think.
I am.
All right,
trying to remember how to share my screen.
We're all brand new to WebEx. Actually, this is the 5th week, but still. Oh, there we go. I see your screen.
Yeah, so it was under share my screen. That was easy to find this time.
Very good.
All right. So SVG icons can be stored as individual icons in one file apiece. You can include them explicitly in HTML using the SVG tag. Or, as I found out today from this great question, you can actually put a whole bunch of them in one file and just have the one file to reference. And the way that is done preferably is using this thing called symbol, which I assume you can see this text on the right here, or the left. And what symbol allows you to do within an SVG file is define multiple icons. So in here there's an icon heart, there's one with a cloud, there's a star, and there's a bulb. And it includes the path here, which is the definition of that icon, and other information like what the view box sizing is. And all of these are important for they encode how the image is drawn and rendered. So in Alpha Anywhere, within a UX, this is a UX component that I have here all set up under the properties, and there's a section called CSS SVG, and you can actually include externally linked SVG files using the SVG linked files option. And this works similar to the including JavaScript or CSS files. You define one SVG file per line in this dialog, and that includes it. But in addition to including those files in your project, we also include them as an option when you go to do something such as set the image for a button. A button is one of our other controls. Over here in this box, it's called button, inserts a button. So I have this button here, and I want to make it an image-only button and define an image for it using one of these icons over here in my SVG file that I've added. So if I go in here to SVG icon, I click on the select button and define a color, because for whatever reason, I don't have any colors defined. There we go. 0, 0 is black, right? So you'll see these ones here at the top. These are ours. These are icons that Alpha Anywhere has created. If you scroll all the way down to the bottom, you'll see linked SVG icons, and these are the ones that are linked in from those external files. And there's my heart and my cloud and my star and my bulb. So it's pretty easy to add your own icons using this method. You select it. We do all the work on the back end to get that into your app. If we go into working preview here, wait for a moment here. System's a little slow. There's my icon on my button, a little cloud. So to address the specific question that we had, part of the answer does depend on how your SVG file format was defined, on how those icons are included. But in the case that I'm showing here using symbol, it's pretty simple. So what you'll want to do is first get that icon or icons that you want to add. This icon, which I downloaded from Flat Icon, is this little bicycle symbol I'd like to add in there. So I downloaded that, and I opened up the file locally. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the very top here and grab everything starting with that first SVG tag all the way to the end of the file to the closing SVG tag. Copy it. Go to my icons file. Paste it after the last symbol, but before the closing SVG tag. And then the last thing I'm going to do is change SVG from my copied XML markup here to symbol. Opening and closing. And just to make this a little bit easier for you to see, I'm going to delete all these G tags, which I don't think they're actually necessary. I've never kept them before. So to recap, you copy the SVG code that defines the symbol, including the SVG tags. You paste it in your file alongside the other icons that you have. And then you change that SVG to symbol, and this gives you that symbol. And then one thing you want to do, the last thing you want to do is to make sure that the ID that's defined for that symbol tag that you've added is something that makes sense to you. So I'm going to change it to bike instead of kappa _ 1. So that I know when I go look in that picker, it will show bike, and I'll understand what that means, not only in a text context, but I can search for it now. So I'll save this file, which is already included in my project. I'm going to go back to Alpha, go back to my image name property for my button, wait for it to load. There it goes.
Live demo, time slows down.
It does. My system gets really slow when I've got, when I've got Skype and Alpha Anywhere crashing. Let's go find it again. My apologies for my desktop. I am running a pre-release, so. Back into my example. All right, so we're back here. We're at my button. Go back to image. Click select. Wait patiently for it to load this time. And there's my bike.
Awesome.
Yep. So now I can select that and use that as my button icon instead. And when I preview it, there it is.
Awesome. Excellent.
So yes, my apologies for the slowness, but that's how you do it.
Cool.
Yeah.
So up until today, I admit I never knew that an SVG icon can be one file with lots of things in it, and probably a lot of you knew that, but it's nice now to know the format.
Hey, and just to kind of amplify that, this is the way to go. There's a couple really cool things about this. One is SVG icons are very small footprints, meaning that the amount of data that's needed to actually represent that information on the website or on your mobile device is very small. So you're going to find that load times are faster, render times are faster, just phenomenal, versus heavy bitmap, even small bitmaps. After a while, it takes time to get those bitmaps down, those JPEGs, PNGs, etc. And there's a huge amount of resources out there. There's off-the-shelf ones. There are services that will translate images into SVG. You could actually even go to Fiverr and hire people who will create SVG icons for you and things like that. So it's definitely something you want to have in your arsenal in terms of using it, because it's going to make your apps better. They're going to look better. And the last thing that's super important about SVG is they're scalable, meaning that let's say you create a home page and you have a bunch of icons on there. Well, if that is on a small phone or a big desktop web, they'll scale appropriately. So they're going to look great no matter what platform. You don't have to worry about making a small version, then a medium, and a large version, and managing all that stuff. SVG does it for you. So really, spend time. SVG is cool. And thank you very much, Sarah. This is neat stuff.
You're welcome.
Great. Thanks very much. Dion, I'm going to hand it back over to you, and I've got some questions that maybe either of you can jump into. So let's take a look. Let me just say yes to that.
Okay.
Let's take a look at the questions here. Okay. So this is an interesting one. How does Alpha Anywhere compare with PHP in terms of performance while servicing a large number of concurrent users and running on concurrent hardware and databases?
Very complementary in terms of the Alpha application server, which is really the heart of serving up that content, is extremely mature. And there are an enormous amount of performance things built into Alpha. So what you're going to find is that it's equivalent or not better, or even better than PHP in terms of some of these core things, especially when you start getting into things like grid rendering, etc. You'll see in PHP, Alpha uses what are called components. So if I build a grid in Alpha and I build that grid from here, this is a full-blown component. So I can put it together, and then when it works and it runs on the website, basically what happens is Alpha on the web server generates the HTML to render this and then sends it to the browser. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. Once it's done that, it's sent it to the browser, everything else is done through what's called an XBasic callback, or a callback, meaning that it doesn't re-render the page every time you do something. Basically, you click it, and it makes a call to the server. The server comes back with a small piece of data that says how to refresh the data. So therefore, you can actually improve your performance, because instead of having to re-render the whole grid every time, in those cases, like when I say 25 right here, I've only got 9 records, so that's not going to do anything here. But actually, let me do this. Let me go to 2. When it does that, it actually doesn't send back this whole grid. It basically sends back instructions to re-render this grid on the local device. Now, the important thing about that is that reduces the amount of stress on the server, because the server now is accepting incoming requests, But then what it does is instead of saying, okay, I've got to regenerate this whole page and send it back, it basically grabs and just sends back small amounts of data that then are used on the front end. So it's very mature, and it really reduces your your requirements for that. Now, the other aspect too, which is very powerful, is that we started out with the Alpha application server, and that was a single-threaded, single processor core kind of server. And since then, we have added IIS, so we now work as an IIS plugin, which is really cool because IIS plugin will actually spin up as many cores on a machine as you need. So before, by the way, you could spin up multiple versions of the server on different cores, so you had to do all that manually. Now it's handled by there. So the cool thing about that is now when that load comes in, it actually will distribute it among the cores on that one server, and that server can then better support it. In fact, we've done some recent load testing where we had a specific, where we were like ramping it up to like 250 concurrent users at one time on like a 16 gig Xeon processor, because you had all these cores, and we never saw the sort of capacity go over like 50% because it kept spinning up cores and supporting it as it goes, and that was with IIS there. Now also beyond that, which is very powerful, is that you're not just limited to one server. Now obviously Alpha is licensed on a per server basis, but you can use techniques such as, okay, I've got 2 servers, each of those has multiple cores. As I get more requests, I start distributing across those servers. And the beauty of that is that then you can kind of use multiple servers to service that ongoing demand. And now, even better, with our new Alpha Cloud, before you had to kind of manually set all that up, now Alpha Cloud does all that automatically, meaning that if you're using the Alpha Cloud as your hosting environment, Alpha Cloud instantly spins up 2 servers for redundancy and performance capabilities. So behind the scenes, there's literally 2 servers, 2 IIS servers running that is supporting your application. Then you can put in rules that say, if I get to a certain level of capacity on that, go ahead and spin up another server. And it can do that as many times. Now, obviously, you got to be careful. There's costs associated with it. But you won't get into a situation where you just like run into a wall. Basically, it will spin up as many servers as you need to support that load. So you can scale it essentially enormously as you want, and Alpha just handles it and runs like a champion. Now, the cool thing about that is since it's built into IIS, built into Alpha Cloud, you basically go on, get a subscription, and you're done. Whereas if you're looking at PHP, you're going to have to set up the PHP servers, you got to set up the load balancing and all these other things. So in fact, over time, there's a lot more management and overhead you have to do with a PHP environment than you do with an Alpha environment, because we handle all those logistics, those developer things. So first and foremost, Alpha is really mature and has been designed for high throughput and capabilities. Thus the using of things like components where it's only sending back a small amount of data, thus reducing the amount of like bandwidth you need to be able to support it. With IIS, we can use multiple cores. With Alpha Server, we can spin up multiple servers and balance that, do it all automatically for you. So I think what you're going to find out is that it's equivalent, if not better, in terms of your ability to handle these high-capacity environments. And obviously, there's the benefit of being able to build your systems at a fraction of the time and cost that you would with PHP, because in this sense, for instance, when I'm doing a grid, I'm like, oh, no, I want the address. Okay. Now go write that in PHP and tell me how long it would take you to add that capability into PHP. You know, and for me, it was literally 4 seconds of effort to modify this. For a PHP, well, am I using a special third-party grid? Do I have to regenerate all the code? Do I have to go in and rewrite a template for this grid and then deploy that? It really, you know, you're going to save time everywhere. So I hope that gives you a better feel of how we approach it. But again, bottom line, I think you're going to see great results with Alpha.
Thanks very much. A couple of questions here about Transform. Let's start with a technical one, which is, can the Transform API also connect or be used to connect to third-party data sources like Twitter or something like that?
Interesting. Actually, in the terms of Transform and the API, let me go back here. So you'll want to connect it to a third-party service. So there's 2 ways you can do that. You can use Alpha Anywhere to read and write the data, kind of pull it out of Transform and send it that. But since Transform has a full supported web API, You could also look at doing something like this. Go to a product like Zapier. And Zapier already has pre-made integrations with it. Oops, why? Let me go ahead and go to Zapier.com. It took me to the login page. And so Zapier allows you to connect things together. So you can connect, and they've already got pre-built. Now, the way you connect it, the cool thing about with Zapier is that Zapier actually allows you to take a web API and create your own little connectors. And then once that's connected, you could send that data to other systems. So a quick and dirty way to connect Transform to anything is by using this, and it's built into Alpha. And we actually are going to show you a demonstration of that in the next few weeks where it goes from there. But notice they're not the only ones. There's if then that. That's another very popular sort of integration software that allows you to connect systems together. There's also Microsoft Flow. And this is from Microsoft. It's on the Azure platform. And again, same concept where you can connect things together, but all of these support the ability for you to essentially connect to a web API, which is what Alpha presents. So we're going to be doing more work to show you how to use this stuff. But the great thing about it, and this is the powerful piece, there's certain things, once you have that capability, you can connect it to Google Sheets, Facebook pages, Gmail, Trello. I mean, there's thousands of things you can connect either Microsoft Flow, IFTT, or Zapier. There'll be a little bit of homework, but we're going to be helping you out with that as we expand our capabilities to do this. We'll be able to show you examples and give you guidance to do it, but we're very excited about that because, again, you're able to do this. Now, that said, that's for like easy. Like I want to take a form and then move the data into Google Sheets or send an email with that data in an email. That's great, easy stuff. Again, what Alpha's built-in integrations is you're going to actually be able to create, for instance, list controls that connect directly to it. So we're like, hey, however you want to use that data, you can, but you'll be able to produce more sophisticated sort of back ends on top of Transform using Alpha Anywhere. But that doesn't limit you from using these third-party products to be able to connect to Transform and be able to handle it from those pieces there.
Thanks very much. So you've had a couple of questions about pricing, and really the best places to direct that is just to send an email to sales@alphasoftware.com. But I can let you know that if you are an Alpha Anywhere customer, there are certain tiers in which you will get a certain number of Transform seats, and also that the pricing is a little bit different because as an Alpha Anywhere customer, we give you preferential treatment in this. But we haven't, it hasn't officially launched in terms of doing it sort of as a self-service, buying a license sort of thing. But I expect that that's going to happen as early as next week, as we're just winding down the beta on Transform. In the meantime, you can still always get a free trial of Transform, regardless if we're in beta or go live, and you can get that at transform.alphasoftware.com. And in fact, I've just put together 3 tutorials, which will go up very shortly, that show you start to finish how to build your own Transform applications. Okay, moving on to all right, this is kind of sort of a hard question, probably one we'll need to research, but I'm going to go ahead and ask it anyway. So this person is using a free-form report builder, and they have built a report that groups based on ID. And in this report, they have 2 sub-reports, so a report within the report. What they want to know is it possible, can it be formatted in such a way that both of those reports appear on one page, maybe one next to the other? Is that a doable thing? Also, if I don't know how much you've worked with sub-reports, but if you could even quickly explain the concept of sub-reports, that would be helpful because I think a lot of people go, that sounds like I know what that is, but do they really know what it is? And it probably would be good to explain.
And I might need to do a little research time.
That's fine. I'll be honest with you, the report
I'm a little rusty.
editor,
I've done a lot.
Yeah.
It's a topic in and of itself. It's very important.
It's a big one, and probably one we should handle in an upcoming webinar, I think.
I agree. That'd be great to just do a refresh of those capabilities.
Yeah.
But let me show you an example here. So I have this first report here, and I'll preview that report. This was done with a quick report. So I've got a first report. Well, Alpha's very mature report editor allows you to take an existing report. So this is what's called the freeform report. So again, I'll show you an example of that. essentially I have more, it's like crystal reports. I can lay it out here. But what's powerful about this is that you can actually create a sub-report, meaning that I want to show like a header, but then in another table I've got some other data and I want to show that other report that's linked to it. So I can go here to a sub-report, put this in here, and then I can filter on SQL data source. Let me go ahead and do this. And okay, again, I'm going to have to play with that because I am very rusty on that capability. But the ability is you can use, there's two ways you can use what's called a sub-report or a linked report. And it allows you to put one report within another. So when you run the two, it basically shows very complex data. So let's say you had, for instance, work orders. And so your header is a work order. And then you had a sub-report you wanted to put on your screen that had history. And it would show a report that's linked to that work order that shows from another table. So you could show those pieces in there. Or you could have like one that's history, then another one with like parts that were used on that work order, another one that is maybe requests or history or something else. I guess I'm being redundant. But Alpha can do it, and I'm a little rusty, but basically you have the top level, then you embed a sub-report. Now we also have something called a linked report, and a linked report is very similar to it, and it needs to be done, I believe it's done with a, it's essentially kind of the same method. So we should really look at doing a little bit more of a deep dive on how these concepts work, but you can do it within there. The intent, though, is that there's a unique idea at the top level that you connect to that sub-report. And that's where I'm a little rusty. It's been a while since I've created them. So I'll come up with some kind of quick sample so we can go through it in the very near future. I'll make a note on that. Sorry, I can't answer your day today. Or
Great. Thanks very much. So we have, actually, just a quick question. Someone was wondering, do we have a sample of a dental form that's been used with Alpha Anywhere for dentistry? There isn't one, I think, that I
created
know of.
one.
You created one.
I created one, yes.
You created one.
I met with someone who was in that business, and it was about dentist visits. Obviously, I think it's going to be. I've got look at that security. I've got to go back in and do this.
Dion, you continue to impress me. I was going to assume that no, but we'd be happy to create one for you, and instead it's no, you actually have one. All right.
Well, we want to keep everybody happy.
Excellent.
This was just made on the fly. So the idea is, it was the idea of I'm a dental rep, and I go out to the field. So I'm going to visit a dentist. So the first thing I'm going to do is put the dentist name in there, the reason for why I'm there, what are the activities I want to do while I'm there, and then track the location when I'm there, grab that location, and be able to actually say, hey, I actually filled this out when I was on site. Then this was very simple. So obviously it's not mature, but then what I want to do is, if you go to a dentist, they have different bays, one for each hygienist or area they're going to do work. So we just threw this together saying, well, when I'm out there, I want to walk to each bay and I want to make sure that one of our brochures is each in one of those bays, that the bays are clean, that do they have competitive product in that bay. But you could have up to a large dentist could have 10. I go to my daughters have orthodonture and they've got 6 bays rocking and rolling 24/7. It's crazy. It's like a factory line. But also I want to take a capture of video. So that was the idea of I have a customer visit, and then within that visit I'm going to collect multiple pieces of data for each bay, and then I could collect as many bays as possible. And then once I have that information, I could go here. So that's kind of where we started. But if you want to give us a call, we'd love to do some samples that are more realistic than what I put together. But you can see here's the bay. The customer name, the location, and then in this case, I only had one bay, which someone had left a koozie cup or a Yeti cup in there, so I took that picture of it. But it allows you to do that there. But I could have multiple bays. But yeah, but easy. If I wanted to change this, we could literally build it. Maybe we want to do that is have a challenge and build a form next time with Transform, just on the fly with one of our esteemed colleagues in the field who wants to see a cool form be built.
I like that idea.
I like it. That'd
be
fun.
And again, if this isn't what you're looking for, if you're looking for something specific, sometimes the hardest time we have here is coming up with realistic examples, and it is so incredibly useful if someone out in the field who's actually doing a project for work and says, you know what, I'd really like an example that looks like this. it really makes our job a lot easier.
Yeah,
rather
send
than
us a
having to dream
PDF.
stuff up, you know.
Send us a PDF of the form that gets
Sure.
filled out, the manual form, and we'll take a stab at it. I'd love to do that.
So again, send that to guides, Guides, at alphasoftware.com. If you have any questions, or if you have any other questions during the week, you can send them out as well. Speaking of questions, I am not seeing a ton of questions
I
here.
did see a comment. Someone had asked about security, and I wanted to show.
All right, very good. Yeah.
And in fact, where you can go, which is great.
Let me go ahead and can I just go ahead and read that?
Please. I'm sorry.
The question.
So my apologies.
They said they're fairly early to learning Alpha, and they're trying to better understand integrating sort of the registration login system into a web or desktop application. And I think that a lot of people have questions about that, certainly early on, because there's a little bit to it.
Yep. And so I want to point you in two ways. One is there's a page actually on our website under mobile app development application security. So I'm going to copy this and actually, where is it? Chat. I'm going to throw it in the chat real quick here. I'm going to send it to everybody. Does it allow everyone? Yep, here we go. Okay, there. Okay. So this just has some background on it, but there's also some built-in videos. There's this overview right here. But also we had something called the Web Security Step-by-Step. So it's a webinar. You can click there and watch that now. And this will actually show you in. And, it asks you for some information, but it was done by me a while back, but it's still relevant. But I wanted to also show you could go to alphasoftware.com/videos. And this is our new video site that's available. And go ahead and type in security. And there's a ton of videos on there. And I believe that one is in here. Let's see. How to do logins. Let's see. There's our 3-minute overview. But I'm trying to see if that one is actually in here. But all these videos are available for you to walk through and showing you how to do it. But this is the one you want to look for. It's called Security Framework How-To Webinar. And even though this is a little dated, I mean, it's almost 4 years old. Man, it's a little under 3.5 years old. The basic concepts are the same. So if you go through that, you're going to find the basics, and then the rest of the videos can kind of show you those kind of things from here. So again, if you go to alphasoftware.com/videos and put in the Security Framework How-To, and you can do that through the search, and you'll see it has someone like typing on a computer kind of thing. That's a great intro. If you go through that, you're going to know kind of all the different pieces, and then from there you'll be able to enhance it and go flexible there. But again, something we did, and I think you're really going to enjoy when you watch it. I think it'll answer a lot of your questions, and you'll be able to quickly implement it based on that kind of information.
Excellent. Thanks very much.
Hey, my pleasure.
The other question, let me see if there are any more here, and you probably haven't used this one in a while, but the image gallery, the image gallery component.
Aha.
You're familiar with that?
Yes. Let me go ahead and show you that.
Yeah, if you could show us that would be cool.
Okay, so the image gallery is cool. It's a built-in functionality here, and it's a web component. So I'm going to click Web Component, and I'm going to add a new one. And you're going to see it's a web component, so we go there. But it's right here called Image Gallery. So I'll click Next. And it generates this image gallery. Now, the cool thing about it is that, let me go ahead and just preview it real quick. I'll do a full preview. It's a web-based component, but it creates this really cool-looking gallery. So you'll see that you have the information here, and then you've got a gallery of little images down below, thumbnails, and you can walk through them, and it's all very nice. It has the beautiful transition effects and looks really sharp. You can also use these arrows to walk through them, this method. And so it's really easy. Now, the cool thing about the image gallery, which is really, really powerful, is that it can be data-driven, meaning the following. That basically all an image gallery does is it takes thumbnails and images on your local disk and then serves them up into the browser so people can see them. So you can have what's called a default image directory, which is where those images are, and then you could set like a default filter and some other things here. You can also bind to a database for the image descriptions. Like if you wanted to have the images have descriptions. Let's say you record images, and when you record the image, you record a comment associated with it. Well, you can relink that data here. But the real power behind it is the following. Let me go ahead and go to a UX component here, create a UX component. Built into Alpha is a lot of really cool features. So let's say I want to display that image gallery. I'm going to go ahead and go to my button here, open my button up, and we have open an image gallery component as an action JavaScript. And for people who are new, action JavaScript is our ways of adding behaviors to a system. So you tell it which gallery. I don't have any galleries. I didn't save that other one there. But I can then bind arguments to it. So here's what's really cool about it. Let's say you had a different set of pictures. Like, let's say, here's an example. Let's say you're running an inspection company and you go out and you inspect someplace. And each site is going to have a folder with images you captured at that site showing historical data. Well, what you want to be able to do is build a form where when someone pulls it up, they want to see this nice image gallery. But whenever they pull it up, they're basically going to be pointing to a different directory. Well, what's great is you can use argument bindings to have like a text field or something on your UX that says what is the current folder, and then when you click on this, it will dynamically update that so that it then shows the data in that folder. So what that allows you to do is the image gallery is really nice, but you're not fixed to a certain folder and a certain set of images. You can make it dynamic where when you click on a button, it would automatically say, oh, you want to see the images for work order 5. Great, I'm going to point to that directory, and then it just gives it to the image gallery, and then it renders everything in there. And we actually have clients that use it this way, is that they basically have all these images they've collected, and they want to make it very easy for people to be able to see those images in a very nice present way, which you see here. You can see that. But what's great is now they can use these techniques to say, oh, just show this set of images, just show this set of images. And it's all web browser easy or compliant, so it looks great and runs really fast on web browsers when you're running them with the web browsers. It's a really cool component, and I think it's underused, but it's really works great.
Cool. Hey, thanks very much. We have a couple more minutes. Oh, someone just asked a quick question, though, about the image gallery. Do you know if keyboard navigation is supported in that?
No, it's not. Not within that capability. Yeah, that would be kind of nice.
Meant to be clicked on, yeah. Someone asked if we could have a session on security in Alpha Cloud, since it's a little different than using the SQL security system. I think that would be a great idea.
That is, and I've done a lot of work recently, so that should be pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
It's just, what's interesting is that the security is, a lot of the concepts are the same, but some terminology changes, and you just need to understand what those terminologies are. And in fact, we covered that in our Alpha Cloud certification course that we had, but we can obviously do a special session on security. But it really powerful. What's cool about Alpha Cloud security, which is that you could create one security store, sort of one place where you keep your security. So if you have 5 or 10 applications, they can all go back to that one place to get their security data, or they can have separate security for each one. And Alpha Cloud handles all that really nicely. Basically, you can say, oh, when I deploy this, either have its own little security area or point to an existing one. And it's really nice when you create these kind of like you're going to have 5 or 10 different applications, but you want people within the same company to be able to access those. It'll use that same security store. Plus, also Alpha Cloud Security also handles a lot of much more complicated scenarios. It's pretty nice.
Excellent. Thanks very much. Let me see if there's anything else in here, or if we're going to leave 1 minute early. Leave 1 minute early.
Is this, by the way, is this the your office up there? Is this
that is actually the outside of our office.
I thought so. It looks familiar.
It is. No, that is 70 Blanchard Road.
Yeah, I think is that Bob's dream car?
That's Bob's dream car. Bob, who
actually
put together this interface.
There's a guy in my neighborhood who rebuilds these, and he's got like 3 of them, and they are just. There's a big pool of oil beneath it, so it's very realistic. But it's an absolutely beautiful vehicle.
Fantastic. Oh, just one quick question before we go. So if you wanted to have an image with multiple tags, let me see, and then be called several reports based on the tags requested, So would you be able to, maybe this isn't really an image gallery question, but would it be possible to create an application where you have you have multiple tags per image, like maybe a tag cloud or something like that?
Yeah.
And you want to create a report and just show me the images that match those in the
Absolutely.
in my search.
The real question is, where are you storing the tag information? So my assumption is you would have a data table that would say, like, one column is the image name, and then the next column maybe has a set of tags that are associated with that in that one column. So it's like a comma separated set of there. But yeah, you could set it up where basically you would then you could do filtering. Like even in the image gallery, you're going to notice that there's something called filter, default filter. But what you can do is in the button that you add here to add that, let me go ahead and you can actually set up, where is it? You can pass in filters and other things like that to filter the images that are associated with it.
So there are action JavaScript actions that are defined that you can use in the...
Yeah. And then if you're doing a report now, if you were going to do it in a report, what you would do is you would create, basically, when you do your reports and you can pass in filters. So you can say, select a series of images where like this tag is present in this column. That would give you a list of records. And then in the report, you would just have those records and then point to the URL or point to the data that represents the image to show it right here. If it's external, you would point to a URL. And the reports, what it's going to do is it's going to look in the database, get the pointer to that report on the disk, and then just render it on the report from there. And you can just use standard database filtering to be able to filter it to a certain subset of tags.
That's great. Well, thank you very much, Dion, for presenting today.
My pleasure. Thank you.
But keep those questions coming, everyone. Please send them to guides, GUIDES, @alphasoftware.com, and we would love to answer them. So thank you, everyone who attended, especially those who asked questions. Thank you, Dion. Thank you, Sarah, for presenting. And we look forward to seeing you next week. A copy of this will be found at alphasoftware.com/videos probably in the next 2 days. Thanks again. Take care. See you next week.